Today we're going to make a wood stove, a cook stove, that will fit right in your pocket. You think we can do that? Okay, see it right there, it's right in my pocket. So first we're going to show you how to set this one up, and then Levi is going to build one out of an Altoid tin. We'll talk about all the parts we need and what tools we need to do it. First we're going to show you this one that I've already made. We have a piece of rubber band made out of a bicycle inner tube that we use to keep it shut. And then we're going to open it up and we take out our screen. And we got 4 long bolts that we take out. And then inside here I have 3 wax fire starters and some matches that are waterproof fire starting have fire starters built into the matches. I keep them in aluminum foil so that they don't accidentally light up. Excuse me. And then in here I have a Bic lighter. So to make this stove work, we're going to screw these here in just like that. And then we're going to put this screen back in here. And Levi, you were asking about putting the wood on top of the screen. See, this is to hold the wood up, and that's to let the air go through these holes that I drilled in the sides. The air goes underneath and burns on this wood. So
if it were at the bottom, it would be harder to come out?
It would be harder to get air to burn, yep. So we put a wax starter in here, and of course this can only be used outside. And then we put on our little pieces of wood, and then some bigger pieces. Here's some more little pieces, and then we can just stack our wood. We can use little twigs or whatever we want, and we can just stack our wood right up in there. And then our pot or our fry pan or whatever we're using can sit right on top. Then these bolts are tall enough to where this back lid can fold up against there, and that helps keep the heat in. And so there's our wood stove. And then when it's all done burning and all the ashes are all gone, we can just dump the ashes out, make sure they're all out, and then put it all back together. Now we'll go over all the parts we need. The first thing we need is an empty Altoid tin container. It's a little metal box. And then the next thing we need, and these are kind of hard to find, but these are extension nuts. And the size of these bolts and nuts is called 1024. 10 is the size and 24 is the thread. So these bolts here, we need 4 long bolts 3 inches long. And then we need 4 short bolts 3/8 of an inch long. And then these extension nuts are 3/4 of an inch long. And they're just big enough to stand up in the tin without sticking out the top, because they'll stay sticking up like that when this lid closes. Okay? And then we need some kind of a rubber band to keep it shut. And this is just off of a bicycle inner tube. And then we need some hardware cloth. And hardware cloth is a screen like this. And this is 1/2 inch hardware cloth. There's also 1/4 inch and 1/8 inch. And any of those sizes will work. I like the 1/2 inch the best. So that's the parts we'll need. Now the tools we're going to need is we're going to need a hammer, and this is a ball peen hammer, right? Mm-hmm. But any kind of hammer will work. And then we need one of these, and that's a what? Punch. Yeah, this is a punch. And then the other thing is we need 2 drill bits. One is the size of the bolt, and the other smaller. And the air holes we will drill smaller so that when we put everything away, these bolts won't sneak out of the hole. when it's in our pocket. Okay, and then a flat screwdriver and a side cutter. And this side cutter is for cutting the screen here that we'll show you how, and a pair of pliers. And the pliers are to hold on to these nuts. Some of the other things we could use, but you don't have to, is you could use an adjustable wrench, right? Or you could use a combination wrench and use the box end to hold it, or the opened end to hold it. Or you could use a pair of pump pliers. Now to make this thing, the first thing we have to do is make our holes. And we're going to use a marker to mark out. We want to mark out 3 or 4 holes on the sides and then a bunch of holes across the front. And then we need a hole in each corner of the bottom here. Okay? So now what I've made here is a little block to work on. It's like a little wooden anvil. The other thing you could do is just take a piece of this, like a piece of this 2x2, and nail it onto a stump or a piece of firewood, or put it in a vise in a workshop. But this is just something to pound on and to drill on. So first thing we're going to do is mark these holes out. So here, you go ahead and mark the spots the rest of the way across. I've got some of them done here already. Yeah, that's probably plenty. Okay, and then inside here, about 1/4 inch in of each corner, just like that. We need to make some marks there. Okay, now we're going to use a punch and make a dimple in each of those marks, so that when we drill, the drill bit won't wander. So, okay, here we go. Levi's going to punch these here. Okay, that's all our side holes. Now we gotta punch these 4 holes. Okay. Okay. There, now we have all the holes punched, marked out. So now we have to drill them. First we're going to use the smaller drill bit, the drill bit that is smaller than these bolts here. And I am going to do that because sometimes drilling these holes can be a little bit dangerous. Now Levi, you were asking me a question about if we didn't have a drill. Mm-hmm. What was your question?
If we didn't have a drill, would we just use the bit?
Yeah, or this punch? Yeah, if you didn't have a drill, you could just use a punch and punch these holes. Just be careful on how far through you punch it. And maybe you might have to notch out a little piece of wood here with a pocket knife. Something for the punch to go into. And then you could just punch it through to the right size. You could do that. But we're going to use the drill today. So, got a leather glove on in case the drill bit catches and this spins. The other thing I did was I kind of rounded the corners of this wood off so that we could fit this up here a little closer. Yes, Levi?
If you didn't have the leather gloves and the drill prop, wouldn't it burn your hand?
Well, it might flip this around. And if this is flipping around on the drill bit, and some of these sharp edges could hit your hand and cut your hand up. With your glove on, it still might do that, but it's not so likely to hurt you. You see, it could go down here like this here. See, and if it jams, it can flip around like that. And that could cut your hand. Okay, now, next thing we're going to do with the small drill bit, now we're going to go to the bigger bit. We're going to take these extension nuts and we're going to put them inside here like this, and then put the bolt up through the bottom like that. Think you can do that? Mm-hmm. Okay, here, you try that.
I got myself cut on some of those.
Yeah, some of those are kind of sharp. So that might be a good idea for you boys to wear gloves too. Once this gets used a few times, those sharp pieces will kind of burn off.
Wait, so does that mean that this thing will burn down?
Sometime, at some point, yeah, this will all get burnt up. You'll have to make another one. But that'll be many, many fires. The other thing that we can do on some of them is put this back up here like this.
Have a file and file them up?
Well, you could file them, or you can just take a hammer. This is a ball peen hammer. You can use the round end just to peen them back. Okay, now you're going to take these pliers and hang on to this. Okay. And then we're going to tighten these in. Tighten that one. And here we can also, instead of this pliers, we can use this little wrench in here too. Now we got our air holes, and we got our short bolts and our extension nuts in there. So then these here screw in just by hand. They don't have to be tight, because when we go to put them away, we can just lay them in here. But for now, while we're building it, we'll put these on here like this. So now the next step is to make the screen. And we can kind of bend those around, and then when this lid comes up, you want that lid, you want these bolts to be longer than the lid to be shorter. Just like that.
What happens if the lid is longer than the bolts?
Well, if the lid is longer than the bolts, when you go to set the pan on it, the pan will sit on this and it'll flop down and it'll spill your food.
Oh.
so you want these to be longer than the lid, so that your pan doesn't sit on that part. And this way, if it happens to fall down, it's not going to really hurt anything. You just have to stand it back up, if the lid falls down. So next we have to cut some screen, and that's this hardware cloth. This is 1/2 inch hardware cloth, and we need a piece 4.5 inches by 3 inches. And I've already got that marked out here. And then with a side cutter, all these little tags of wire you want to cut off like that and throw them out. And so then when you measure your 4.5 inches, you want to make sure and leave that wire there. So you're going to cut up like that. And then across like that. I've already got this measured out and marked. And these side cutters have the cutter on one side, and so you want to get that close to the screen side where you're cutting it, to the wire side. Like that. So you want to end up with a piece of screen like that. Then next, here I've got another one started. We're going to cut a notch out 1 inch square. 2.5 inches that way and 2.5 inches that way. Okay? So like that, and like that, and like that, and like that. Then we end up with a piece like this. And what we want to end up with is a piece that looks like this. So we're going to take, and we're not going to bend it all the way back, just this first 1/2 inch. Just the first squares. We're going to bend down like that, and like that, and then this one here. Sometimes it helps to over bend them and then bring them back a little bit. There. So then you have a piece like that. And that is going to fit right down in like that. There. And that's our wood stove. And then we can just build our fire in here, set our pot on top, and cook away. And when we're done, we'll unscrew it. Pull this back out. We'll dump the ashes out. If all the ashes are out, we should be able to kind of dump them in our hand. Just make sure they're all out. And then put those in there. Any fire starters or matches we have to put in there, we can do that. Put that in there, close it up, put a rubber band on. Here, you want to put the rubber band on? And get it on there.
Yeah, I can get it on. And then
there.
it's ready to go.
Okay, yep, it's ready to go.